the pain became unmanageable and it was time to change. Is that typically how people get involved in the recovery process? Something happens, an event, a rock bottom, if you will. I've heard that before.
For sure.
A rock bottom, and it's like, holy hell, like I got to do something completely different because the pain of me continuing this substance is greater than the pain of me actually stopping it.
Yeah. That is what brings people into recovery. Like they say there is no bottom. It's when you put the shovel down. That's like a saying in recovery.
Okay.
And that's just the way that it is. When you're ready, you're ready. You know what I mean? You could run your life into a point where you lose your family and you end up in prison or something, or you could have multiple overdoses. Maybe that's what it is. Or you could just like, your family's disappointed in you and that's enough pain, you know? And, the people who put the shovel down earlier, are better off. There's no reason to keep running your life into the ground. But some people, man, they just have like such a tolerance for pain with addiction. I see older guys in recovery just can't stay clean. I'm 30 years old, and like you'll hear from somebody who's like 50 who relapses and has never been able to put more than maybe like a couple months or maybe a year at some point. They'll be like, get this thing now, man. You don't want to be like me. You know what I mean? And I just think to myself, I don't want to be like you. I don't want to be dealing with this at 50 years old. But what is it going to take for you? When have you had enough? You know what I mean? And I think sadly what happens is if you don't like nip this thing in the butt at a young age, you just become like jaded and become like accepting of the fact that like, this is like who I am. You know what I mean? It's like, you like get used to the chaos, and that's just like such a dangerous life to live because most people die. The reality, you probably won't even make it to that age if you're using heroin or street drugs because they're so dangerous anymore. Like we said with the alcohol, it could go on longer. But I think that most people have, it says in our literature in the basic text of Narcotics Anonymous that when the pain becomes great enough, we'll change. And whatever that event is for you is it, you know what I mean? But so few people get long-term recovery that they don't really surrender, you know what I mean? Even after a traumatic event, they continue to use. And it's very sad, but can't do it for them. You know what I mean? It comes down to the same principles that you guys live by with fitness and business. It's self-discipline. You know what I mean? That's it. Like the number one thing of recovery is not work your steps, not call your sponsor, it's don't take anything no matter what. And that is a level of self-discipline that 90% of people in recovery lack. They can't get through the moment when the drug presents itself unexpectedly or it seems appealing. Their brain is going haywire. I'm stressed or I want to enhance my mood, whichever one it is. However they twist it in their head, I want to take something. Me and my sponsor always talk like what you do in those moments will separate the men from the boys. You know what I mean? It'll separate from why can't I get this? Why am I a chronic relapser? To I'm a long-term recovering addict and I haven't used in 2 decades. You know what I mean? Because everybody's had a moment where they were tweetering with it. And what you do in that hour or however long it is can make or break your life.
That brings up a good point. Jordan Peterson talks about addiction as like a positive feedback loop. Okay. And it's whenever the medicine becomes the cure or whenever like the drug becomes the cure that positive feedback loop is initiated. And you kind of talked about that just a second ago about how it's in those moments whenever you're not exactly where you want to be that your mind flips to that cure that you immediately think back to what got you there in the first place. What did you implement in your life to break that feedback loop? What do you do now whenever that moment arises when you're stressed, or it could be anything really?
That's a great question. And I have a really direct response with that. You have to, like, when I got a year clean, like somebody, and I had this answer before, but they usually ask, how'd you do that? And you give like a little speech about, I did everything everybody else did. I went to meetings, I got a higher power, I called my sponsor, but someone said, why'd you do that? And in those moments, I took some of this from my counselor at Glen Bay, some of it from Tony Robbins in his book, Awaken the Giant Within, like these. And the way he's talking about it is why you want to succeed. You know what I mean? Not how you're going to do, but why is your, what's your why? And I've implemented these, like really powerful, emotional, like references when that thought or that time has come up that I draw on to get me through it. And I have a negative one and I have a positive one, like a dark one and a light one. And the dark one is I think about my mom like burying me from addiction, you know what I mean? From an overdose or something like that. And I'm like, I cannot do that. You know what I mean? Like I cannot use her. It's not just about me. Addiction is a rippling effect. You know, it's like you put a drop in the lake and like everybody gets hurt from it, you know? And I think about that and I think about Adam. I'll talk a little bit more later on. My best friend, Adam, who passed away, not directly from addiction, but anyway, my point is that his mom really struggles without him. Of course she does. It's her only son. She loves him. And I think about her and how tough it's been without him. And I think about my mom the rest of her life would never be the same. My mom's very, very close with us. Me and my brother, she's a very loving, you know, almost consuming mother, which, you know, at times it's like tough, but it's a blessing, you know, who doesn't want a mom that loves them, you know?
Sure,
I got to be careful what I complain about because some people don't have that. But I think about her and my dad burying me, you know what I mean? I literally visualize it. I literally see me in a casket getting buried into the ground and my mom weeping. And it's powerful, you know what I mean? I get like the chills thinking about it because that could be the reality. And then I turn the page and I have my positive emotional response or reference, which is something like this. In the past, it would be me going back to Glen Bay, where I went to treatment 2 different times, and speaking into the entire population. I'm like, I have to do that. Like, my message is powerful. One of my assets that I've learned is I'm good at speaking, and my lead is good. You know what I mean? Some people kind of stumble and they get nervous. That's a strong suit of mine, and I give a good lead, and I was a leader when I was in there because I had recovery in the past. You know, I knew more about the program and about recovery than a lot of these patients. So I'm like, days I'd think about using, I'd be like, I got to speak at Glen Bay, man. Like, I can't pick up. Like, I got to do what I said I was going to do. Like, I got a goal, I got a mission. And those 2 things really would push me through. And I would be like, and then we go into the just for today, one day at a time mantra that we talk in recovery. I'm like, I'm just not doing that today. You know what I mean? Like, we'll reevaluate maybe tomorrow kind of thing. Like, who knows, whatever. But right now, today, like, I'm not giving in. You know, you're not getting me. And it's kind of like badass, like competitive, like, fuck you, addiction. You know what I mean? You're going to tell me to go into the worst part of the city and get a terrible drug. I'm like, not going down that road. And then those are the best days in recovery. At the end of the night, when you lay your head down on the pillow, it's like this win. And you, as you continue to do that, you prove to yourself that, like, I don't have to give in to the demands of my addiction. Like, I can be in control, and I can kind of team up with a God of my understanding and a sponsor and get through those moments. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So
there's a couple things I want to bring up there that kind of reference some of the old podcasts. And it's crazy because it seems like as we get further down these podcasts, there's rules to the game, man. There's rules to the game, whether it's beating addiction, whether it's growing a business, whether it's building a great body, whether it's building a great marriage. There's rules to the game. And I'm starting to find these commonalities. I'm excited in another 50 podcasts when we can really distill this. But one of the commonalities that it seemed like you were alluding to over the people who attain recovery and stay recovered is discipline. And Wayne talked a lot about that on our last podcast. He said you have to cultivate the skill of discipline and hard work.
It's like my favorite word.
Oh,
I love it. Dude, I'm like, let's go.
Yeah, for sure, dude. And it gets me fired up too because it's true. Like, the people that you look at that have, you know, a great business, a great body, a great marriage, whatever it is, they have a tremendous amount of self-discipline. They've built it up over the years, so they're made out of iron. It's not that they don't feel it.
Right.
It doesn't. It's just that it doesn't fucking matter.
Right.
The second thing I thought, and we talked to Bobby about this a lot, is when you're drawing on your emotional reserves, it's good to have that light side. It's good to think about your dreams. It's good to have, like, for Bobby, he wants to be the world champ. That's what he wants. He thinks that. He visualizes that. He wants to manifest that. But there's also something that I think a lot of people are afraid to lean into, but I think it's just as powerful. You shouldn't spend all your time there, but you should spend time there. And that's the dark side. It's being able to lean into those dark emotions that can drive you forward when you really need the emotional reserves to do something you really don't feel like doing. I have to do it in business, man. I have to do it in business. Because when I bought the gym in the middle of the pandemic, There's a lot of people that were like, dude, this is crazy. It's not going to work.
Right.
Like, you're nuts.
Yeah.
You had what you were doing was great. Why are you trying to do this?
Right.
And then during the pandemic, when people were saying, well, hey, because I wasn't getting paid rent by a lot of people, right? My business was shut down. My cash reserves were going down and my bills weren't going down.
Right. Of course.
And what I hear from somebody specifically that I care about was, maybe it's time for Alex to get a real job. Right. I lean into that, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Like I went and boxed yesterday. I was boxing hard as fuck.
Okay.
Come back and I'm thinking, I'm like, yeah, there's a piece of broken equipment. I'm like, I can wait till tomorrow. And it sounds weird and it sounds stupid and it sounds benign when we're talking about something that's as large and prevalent and damaging as addiction. But I had to lean into that dark side a little bit. I'm like, no, that's what this guy wants. He wants me to go home tonight.
Right.
He wants me to just relax. I had a hard day.
Yeah.
I just boxed. I'm tired. Fuck that.
That inner bitch.
Crushes that voice.
It's always chirping at us.
You need to have a little bit of that dark side. I'm not saying you should spend all your time.
No.
But I'm saying that what you're doing right now, when you have those moments and you're leaning into that dark and the light, I think both of them combined are so powerful.
Oh, they are.
To instilling and driving forward and cultivating that self-discipline that's necessary for either growing a business or beating addiction.